Amanda with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com. Let's talk about panos. Panos. Super important. You need to know how to read a pano. And this is one of my favorite training exercises. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start making more content about this because I feel like when I'm working with a doctor one-on-one and a pano comes up, I'm always kind of shocked to see how they don't see what I see, right? And that comes just with experience. So I think it's a good idea to just look at the pano before you ever see the patient. If you have the opportunity, you don't always have the opportunity, right? Patient walks into the office, you've already seen them, met them, maybe examined them before you took a pano. But sometimes it happens the other way around. Maybe some records magically, show up in your office through the mail or through the email, and you haven't seen this patient yet, and they want to come in for a virtual consult or a regular consult, and all you have is the x-rays, right? So I encourage you to be curious and to look at panos the way I look at them, and then look for clues and then connect the dots. So let's see what we see. And this is kind of a strange shaped pano. I don't know why my graphic designer did this. It made like a weird shape, but it was a weird pano to begin with. But I liked it because it had some things. So whenever I see a pano, first thing I'm going to do is just see things that are weird or iffy or maybes or things I want to look more into. So obviously, what is the first thing that jumps out to you here? I mean, always the first thing you're going to do is count the teeth, right? Always count the teeth. This is like radiology dental school 101, count the damn teeth. See if anything's missing, right? I mean, this is like, even orthodontists forget to do this sometimes, and then they miss important things like, shoot, there's a missing lower incisor. Very common, right? Easy to miss. Okay, so count the teeth, right? See what's there, see what's not there, and then look for pathology. Look for impactions. Obviously, we've got 4 impacted wisdom teeth here. Next thing I want to do is think, well, is there space to fit in the wisdom teeth if I did orthodontics? Well, clearly no, because these lowers are already in the ramus and these uppers are at the tuberosity. So, you can make space if a child is growing, but this is clearly not a child because we've got fully developed, albeit impacted, third molar. So this has got to be someone that's in the high teens to 20s or older. So that's something noteworthy, I would say, definitely. Another thing that I noticed, and I don't have more views of this, but there were more views of this that I could have shown, is that there is something weird up here. And I saw it in all the views. So anytime you see something weird, don't just assume it's an artifact. I'm not saying you got to rush to take a CBCT, but I'm hoping you have the ability to just take a regular PA or a regular PA with a shift. You guys are getting really antsy. Well, the patient's gonna get mad that I gotta take another x-ray. Hello, you're a dentist. This is part of the diagnostic process. Do you think it's standard of care to go ahead and proceed with orthodontics when there might be an odontoma up there or there might be a supernumerary up there? Are you insane? Do you think that's going to go with the insurance company or the dental board if you did it knowing it might be there? No. And from experience, that might is actually usually more common than you think. It doesn't mean it's going to cause damage, but you are insane if you take that case. You absolutely should never, ever take a case with an impacted tooth, be it a mesiodent, an odontoma, or anything like that, unless you have taken that CBCT, had it interpreted by somebody that's their specialty, be it an OMFS or a dental radiologist. If you're interpreting it, you better be very sure you're correct. And write up a report with what you see. We want to know if we can move teeth without banging into those other teeth. Now, my suggestion, if the radiologist says it's okay, I mean, definitely check out all the rest of the content I have on supernumeraries and impactions, and I have an entire channel devoted just to CBCTs. You can check that out, but usually better not to do it. I mean, you're going to have to throw the CBCT in the plan. You're going to have to be taking tons of follow-up x-rays, and if damage did occur, guess whose fault it is? Yours. So it's still your fault. You did it. So even if the patient knew it might happen, it's still your fault. You did it. Who's going to pay the price? Most likely you, because it's your fault and you did it, even if the patient knew about it. So that's one thing I want to make clear. Okay, so check that out. And then we got this issue. So lots of things to think about in terms of x-rays. But no, basically in this particular case, I would say as an adult, you're not going to be able to straighten those molars or fit them in. So you might as well shuck them out. And I certainly would never take this case for ortho with those molars in, because look at the vertical issues that have occurred, because of, the tip of this and everything like that. And the likelihood of this damaging the second molars is high. So just keep that in mind. And then you already have some blunted roots up here, I've noticed. So, all right, things to keep in mind. Remember, if you want to reduce the likelihood of needing third molars out as an adult, you got to get started very young in your child. And it's not just orthodontics. We're talking about diet, posture, nasal breathing, how they sleep, the positions they sleep in, how much they sleep. All of this contributes to the growth of the jaws, both in the transverse and the AP direction. You need to have your jaws growing properly starting at age 1, 2, in order to be able to hypothetically have space to fit all 32 teeth in. Doesn't always happen, even if you do everything right, but it's more likely to happen properly if you do everything right. Now, one of the TV shows or movies that I recommend watching, and I went to go see if it was still on Netflix, and it's gone, but you know, things on Netflix, they show up, they disappear, they show up, and I'm sure you can search for other streaming platforms that might be carrying it now. That is the movie Open Wide. It stars the Mews, Mike and John, Dr. Mike and John Mew from the UK, who are the founders of the whole MEWING philosophy. And if you don't know what MEWING is, then you must not have a preteen boy or a teenage boy in your house. I guarantee you, any of you who has a teenage boy in your house knows what MEWING is. And if you don't, go ask them right now. You're going to get a funny response. I have a funny sidebar on this conversation. I have never met the honorable and late, Dr. John Mew in person. It was one of my goals. And matter of fact, I was working towards it. I was supposed to meet him in this year or next year, if he was still around. And I knew there was always a chance he wasn't, since he was in his mid-90s. But I've been following him for decades. I'm a huge fan. I just think that the Mews are brilliant. And I really respect people who are doing things differently. Like, if you haven't seen kind of my letter that I wrote to the orthodontic community, go check it out. It's in my website, Straightsmile Solutions. I think it's in the About Us, the very last section about giving back. And I kind of talk about, my experience in the orthodontic world and how sometimes I feel like orthodontics, the way people learn and teach, is all about lemmings. Everyone just does what their professor said to do. But there's not always a why behind it. Well, why? Well, why? The Mews are very different. The Mews, they ask the why, and they challenge the traditional orthodontic AAO community. Like, why are you pulling out teeth? Why? You don't have to pull out teeth. Why? You don't have to pull out teeth. It is very, very, very rare that you should need to ever pull out a premolar in a patient if you do things right and start early, and if they have proper parenting. So check out Open Wide. If you have an opportunity to watch it, Dr. Mew passed last week. A lot of us are still mourning his passing, and I'm so excited to see what Mike Mew does. Next steps and everything. I hope that in my lifetime things change in orthodontics, and if they do, maybe I can go back to clinical practice. But right now, I'm out here just educating you guys, working with you guys one-on-one, teaching you guys how to do good orthodontics like the Mews do. I use elements of what they teach. Another great course you can take if you really respect the Mews philosophy is to take Dr. Simon Wong's courses, and we're doing some collaborative work together. I actually contacted him after I watched Open Wide last year, and I really liked what his team had to say, and then we did a course together, and now we're doing some virtual courses together. So check him out because he has some great courses. I would really strongly recommend that. And if you feel in your gut that something's wrong with people needing to get third molars out, well, then you should definitely like that movie and their philosophy. All right, thanks so much.